Staying on the topic of issues that CIOs need to be thinking about and concerned about, you shared another one. This one is actually unusual for us, not an article, but just a LinkedIn post from the chief HR officer of Wipro about their strategy of hybrid work. And I'm curious what your take, why did you share this and what your take on it is?
Yes, so Sarv Govil of Wipro recently posted that Wipro was taking the stance toward hybrid work, that they were planning to have basically their associates work 3 days a week within the office, but then be able to have some sort of flexible capability to work at home and to be able to choose extended times at home if there was any sort of issue with family needs or other personal issues. And I found that to be a decent compromise, especially at a time when people are talking about going into founder mode and bringing people into the office 5 days a week, and all these executives complaining that they don't have the ability to talk to all of their direct reports in person at any time they want, which to me just sounds very entitled, frankly. In 2024, your management capabilities should be a little bit more flexible than that, I think. And so I think Wipro took the right note, especially as a lot of us know Wipro as this IT managed services company that company that at the end of the day is supposed to get the work done. And if they can figure out how to be this flexible, I don't see where many other companies have the wherewithal or the really moral high ground to say, well, we have to get work done
So,
in a
so
way faster than Wipro does.
So you're comparing and contrasting this to some of the recent announcements out of Dell and Amazon. We just talked about Amazon in a positive light, but I agree with you on this one. That they came back and put a stake in both these companies put a stake in the ground that you need to be in the office 5 days a week. And so you're taking this as like, well, why? That this is a better approach? That's kind of your feel.
I think so, or at least it shows what the practical approach is for companies that are trying to keep their employees. I do think some of this 5 day a week stuff is to try to create policies that can allow for laying off employees a little more easily because every large tech company overhired. Uh, but I think might be showing the difference between companies that didn't overhire and those that did, or companies that are trying to retain employees versus those that are happy to stay flat in the short term.
It is striking, in fact, that we didn't cover this because it wasn't really about IT, but Starbucks also was one of the companies that had gone to a full back in office
Mhm.
mode. And then, of course, they hired their new CEO who is commuting from Newport Beach,
Yes.
California, and is not commuting every day. So, it is always interesting to see how the rules bend or change based on circumstances. I think this is going to be a determining thing over the long haul. I do agree in the short term that this is probably some opportunistic, hey, let's put this policy in place to cause people to resign and leave
Mhm.
and what have you. I know in talking to CIOs, those that have remained their companies have remained in a sort of a hybrid model. They found it to be very effective at being able to hire. That there are that they find by going and having a hybrid or a fully remote model that it opens up their ability to bring on staff that they might not otherwise be able to hire, and that improves their ability to compete. If I'm a CIO today, I'm fighting super hard for this because I think it's I mean, I've sort of two minds of it, right? I get the collaboration side. I get there are times, even with what I'm doing now, that I would love to be in one place with everybody, for a
Mhm.
specific period of time to be able to work on something. But I did work in an office a long time ago, and I remembered what it was like. I mean, this idea that you just management by walking around stuff was, well, mostly BS because people were never at their desk anyway. They were wandering around
Yes.
wherever else in meetings,
Mhm.
or you spend half your time trying to find them. I would argue it's easier to find people with today's environment between Teams messaging or Slack and all the different forms of communication that we have that we can actually get to people faster and easier. So, I think it's a red herring, and I do think this sort of balanced approach. What I think is smart here for Wipro, again, given sort of how you might think of them,
Mhm.
is that this was a very well-grounded sort of statement that communicated the importance of their staff, um, and I think that's gonna serve them well.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day as well that this is going to be there's also an issue here around I think uh, what level of skills and the demand for those skills at this point. And we might be seeing that there is not as much of a demand for the high salary skills that have traditionally been compensated.
Well, I
I
mean,
wonder
it's
if we're
clearly
seeing a flip in IT value right now.
well, I mean, we've seen the data. We've seen the data that, for the last 2 decades, the sure path to a high salary was to be in tech, to be in IT, and that has clearly fallen off. Where there's a number of folks that if you look at the data, where they're having a trouble maintaining, probably for the first time in their careers, where they may be taking a step backwards
Mhm.
in salary and in position. And that just, we sort of hit the saturation point. Now, I'm not sure, but and this is where I think some of these companies may be misguided. I'm not sure it's permanent, right? If leaving that particular data point aside, if you look at everything else we've been talking about, what are we talking about? We're talking about massive growth in scale and in needs across every spectrum of the tech
Mhm.
stack, right? Infrastructure, hardware, the software, the integration, everything, and we need people that understand this. And so I think what we are seeing more than anything is that we saw during the pandemic a lot of overhiring. We then saw an economic downturn that put a lot of pressure, with the interest rates rising, that you're seeing this rising. I don't think this is permanent. I think over the long haul we're going to see these companies go back into hiring mode. I think you always need to be concerned about your skills, but I think this is temporary. I will stand by my early predictions that the one thing the pandemic proved is that it can in fact work, and that all of these statements about collaboration and productivity, um, notwithstanding, that organizations understand and know that they can work in a fully remote, fully hybrid type model, and now it's just a choice. And so I think when things shift back, and I think they will, that we're going to see these policies sort of fade away again.